Reverend Munther Isaac, thank you so much for accepting our invitation for a short interview on how we can nurture a broader loyalty to every human being, extending solidarity to those beyond our own communities of faith, political ideology, or nationality. Reverend Isaac is the pastor of the landmark Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem in the West Bank, from where he's joining us. Reverend, on the eve of Christmas last year, when you announced that all Christmas celebrations would be canceled in the birthplace of Jesus, you gave a most powerful and inspiring sermon entitled Christ Under the Rubble, that certainly touched the hearts and minds of every person of conscience. You reminded us of the words of Jesus, that just as you did to one of the least of these sisters and brothers of mine, you did it to me. And that even if the Palestinians are not seen as humans in the eyes of many, in the eyes of God, no one can tell us that. Listening to your sermon, one cannot but feel truly sorry for our own silence, our fear, and our inaction in the face of so much dehumanization and injustice. People like you, however, and the thousands of brave youth, peace activists, and scholars around the world who are risking their careers, livelihoods, and safety, who are name-called and shamed for speaking truth to power, give voice to our human nobility, to the inner reality that we have been molded by the same clay of love. Reverend, you call us to speak up, to embody the term accompaniment, so that those who are being brutalized know that they have not been forsaken. And you remind us that the majesty of the incarnation of Jesus lies in its solidarity with the marginalized. It's clear that we need to expand the consciousness of the oneness of humanity and work to advance the well-being of every human being on this planet. In your upbringing, Reverend, what do you believe has contributed to your extension of solidarity to every human being, regardless of their place of birth, ethnicity, or religion?
Thank you, Martha, for your kind words. So I grew up under the reality of the military occupation of Israel to our land, a military occupation that literally controls every aspect of our lives and still controls every aspect of our lives, and limits our movements, our rights, and controls the resources, and even the family registration, whom you can marry, where you can live, controls everything. And I think it's during the second Palestinian Intifada in the years 2000 and onward, which was very brutal and violent, yet nothing in comparison to what's happening in Gaza these days, that I began to develop a sense of solidarity and empathy with those around me. I remember the long hours at checkpoints, checkpoints that are meant to not just intimidate and control, but to dehumanize. And in these times, I literally battled hate, because it's part of the system of oppression is to dehumanize you and turn us into, take this human element from us. And of course, they cannot. But it was during these days that I began to think, how can I help? How can I support? And I remember very well that I told myself, I don't want to fall down into this spiral of hatred and revenge. And you have to understand that we in Palestine are subjected to a very exclusivist ideology. And so when the Bible was weaponized, in a sense, where it was used to promote a vision of superiority. One people more entitled than the others. One people more privileged than the other. And I realized that this is the essence of the problem. And gradually I began developing my thinking, writing, advocating of the idea that God is the God of all, but even promoting the idea that my faith compels me not to defeat my enemy, but this is the biggest challenge, to turn the enemy into a friend. And so as I struggle against the occupation and against the system of apartheid, the end result is, how do we reach a reality in which we share the land and live as neighbors? It's really hard to speak about this now when we're going through a genocide. But I think if we fail to recognize that this should be the end goal, rather than one of us eliminating the other, I think we will continue in this downward spiral. So growing under occupation and being exposed to theologies and ideologies that are exclusive in nature, I think created this sense of empathy and solidarity that I preach about and advocate for today.
Thank you. And what is the source of your hope and courage to publicly express this universal solidarity, even in the face of criticism and opposition or apathy?
I think before I talk about the source of hope, which is obviously, to me at least personally, my faith in God, I think we have to realize that what's the alternative? Because the alternative is to give in to despair. The alternative is to give up. And maybe even for a choice that many have chosen is to leave and look for an easier route. It's something that I strongly believe it should not be a choice, especially these days, and especially for Palestinian Christians with our small numbers. But the alternative is despair, and I can't live in despair. It's it's the worst place you can be, to be honest. This idea of living with the belief that you cannot change anything. So the question is, can things change? Will things change? And this is where faith comes to aid. What do we believe in and whom do we believe in? I think it's really important. Do we truly believe in a good and just God? And if that is a foundational belief that we hold, and if we truly believe in that, and I think no one can take away this from us, and this becomes our hope, the idea of a good and just God, and that ultimately justice will win, and that the final word belongs to God. So my faith in God, and if I talk about my Christian faith, the idea of the resurrection, which brings in the ultimate victory of goodness, light, life, when Jesus was risen, the ultimate victory of life over death, even makes this faith stronger and stronger. And then I look around me and I see the resilience in the people, in the young Palestinians, and especially the resilience in the people of Gaza right now. A few days ago, I shared a small video that I came across on social media of a bombed house with a very large roof space, and it's now inclined because it fell on the sideway, and the children will go up and then as if slide down. So in the midst of death and destruction, they found something to make them joyful. This is resilience at its best. This is how, we choose life. This is how we teach life, I think. It's a human thing. It's a Palestinian thing, I think, because also when you endure a lot, it makes you stronger. And for these kids who did this in Gaza, probably this is not their first war, because Gaza has been through many wars. And so if the kids in Gaza are able to find a way to rejoice and to keep on living in the midst of a genocide, then we have no reason to complain. And actually, we owe it to them that we work and advocate to end this genocide. And we owe it to them to really work for a better future for them and for everyone around the world. Again, I can't accept the alternative of apathy and isolation and just living one's own interest. And so my faith in God gives me hope, but also when I look around me and see the resilience of our people, I can't but be hopeful, but also work, engage, advocate, and as I said, we owe it to them.
Yes, you're right. Thank you. And then, how do you think the youth can remain hopeful and practice the courage to extend solidarity to every human being in their daily lives? I'm sure this ties in, to your last answer.
Because I think today we have a very unique opportunity, this generation of young people, in that the world has literally become a small village. We're all connected. And I'm not just talking about the connectivity of knowledge, the fact that social media brings other context closer to us and enable us to understand and be in solidarity, for example, with African Americans. I'm aware of for example, the struggle of the Dalit community in India and other contexts. I think, yes, we have more knowledge. We're able to know more through the social media, but I think the social media also gives us the opportunity to express solidarity and to practice solidarity and to communicate and create global networks with one another and use this platform to work together to create better opportunities and better futures. I think we underestimate our strengths many times. We underestimate the capacity within us. As people of faith, we underestimate the power of prayer. But I think also as a human society, we underestimate the power of solidarity with one another, speaking in one voice, putting pressure on decision makers. And today's age gives us tremendous opportunities to mobilize one another. And as I said, to create these global solidarity networks. And so we don't have to actually give in to despair. We can do something. We can with other struggles. And I think it was Martin Luther King who said injustice in one place is injustice everywhere. Today, more than ever, this is true. And somehow, I think the Palestinian struggle is so much connected to many, many other struggles around the world. And today we see it. And we see how one struggle in one place impacts life everywhere. So none of us today lives in isolation. None of us lives in an island. And everything that happens, what happens today in India or in Yemen or any other place impacts all of us. We have to understand this. We have to realize this. And we have to, as I said, take advantage of the opportunities we have today to make our world a better place.
Thank you, Reverend. In our last question, how can educators help youth develop a sense of belonging to one human family? What's the role of educators, if you could help with that?
I think we have a very difficult challenge ahead of us because we live in a very consumer age. Materialism is so strong, and many people don't have a sense of mission or belonging as to why they live. And I've discovered that the best thing we can give young people today is a mission. It's something to live for, something to advocate for, and then trust them in how they can make a difference rather than tell them how to do things. I think young people have their own ways, and times change quickly, and every time they will discover the right tools. But the best thing we can do is inspire them with examples from other contexts of how sometimes very small initiatives make a big difference, of how when we dare to dream and dream big, we can make a difference. And again, for someone like me, I think with God, we can dream very big dreams. God is the God of the impossible. If we truly take our calling in life seriously. I think maybe I can tie it with a very, important concept in Christianity, the idea that Jesus summarized religion, if you wish, by 2 commandments. Love God with all your heart or your might or yourself, and then love your neighbor as yourself, and made the two equal to one another. So this idea of loving the neighbor as oneself is why we exist, is our mission today. And how do we express love to one another? So we need to instill a sense of mission and passion in our young people, that it's our responsibility to show love and solidarity with one another, stand especially with the marginalized and the oppressed, and believe in ourselves that we can be and we can make a difference.
Reverend, thank you so much. Really, this was wonderful. Hopefully, many youth, parents, and educators will listen to it and be inspired by your words and actions. Thank you very much, Reverend.
Thank you.
We are praying from here. Thank you.